Hello and welcome to the channel. My name is Atrocious. You can also call me Jake, and thank you so much for tuning into this round 2 of this Dark Side Games tournament in the OP05 meta. It's going to be Whitebeard and Enel. Both of these players 1-0 right now, and so looks like the Whitebeard opting to I'm not sure. It looks like the Enel is deciding whether to go first or second. But first of all, before we get into this game, thank you so much to these players and Dark Side Games for allowing me to record this game. If you want some singles, some One Piece TCG singles for your decks to prepare for maybe nationals as well, go ahead, check out Dark Side Games' website in the description below. So Whitebeard, not something that we've seen a ton of, I would say, lately, especially with OP05, but we've got a couple locals here that really love Whitebeard, and let me tell you that it's a pretty decent play today. So the Whitebeard just drawing and passing and taking one of their life as part of the leader effect, and the Enel going into their turn, playing the Shura, a perfect going second turn 1 card for this deck, going to be grabbing a Holly. So if they find an Ohm, they're going to be able to get value in putting a Holly down for free no matter what, unless they use it as counter right here, because the Whitebeard is going to be swinging 8 at the Enel and taking a life, and then passing, evening up the life to life ratio. Whitebeard now at 4 life, or Newgate I should say, and Enel at 3. So one Dawn still open though in case of a Radical Beam or a Guard Point, and the Enel is going to use all 4 of their Dawn to use Ohm. Didn't find a Holly in there, but we do know from the Shura that there is a Holly that can go down on the field, and so going to be swinging 5, but for literally nothing, Kura. Anyways, moving on into now Whitebeard's turn. Remember, Whitebeard is a 6k leader, so got a couple different options with them, as Whitebeard always gains a ton of cards in hand. Looks like that swing there at leader is going to pop a Shirahoshi on trigger, so drawing 3 cards and discarding 2. Great card for filtering the hand, and then also later in the game using Katakuri to loop Shirahoshis as well to continuously filter the hand. So going to be pitching a Gadatsu first. Gadatsu maybe not super valuable in this matchup because Whitebeard continuously lowers their own life through the leader effect. So pitching that and a Holly, had multiple Hollies in hand. My goodness. So looks like the Newgate, with all of their Dawn left, will put down a blocker, or I'm sorry, a 5-drop Marco. Just popping the Shirahoshi right away, said, you know what, I don't want you to loop that later in the game, so I'm just going to take this a little bit slower and just build up my board. So Enel going in now to the 6 Dawn turn. Got a couple attackers that they could decide to swing with or continue to widen their board. And it looks like because the Enel is at 2 life or less, that Ohm is going to be at a 6k body as well. And so starting off with that Ohm swing there, going to get a Nami 1k counter, and then the Holly now swinging 6. Going to be forcing the Newgate to take a life there. So 2 life left each. The Enel is now swinging 6 with an Atmos. Atmos is a very interesting card in this vanilla 4-cost 6,000 power Whitebeard character, searchable off Izzo. So very cool. Still has 4 Dawn, could be another Ohm that could come down. No way they have another Holly, but it's going to be a blocker Sanji. So the blocker Sanji is going to potentially block one of their attacks, and now going into Whitebeard's turn, top decking, I think, the Rush starter deck Luffy. Would be interesting to see where they go. Looks like they also play the starter deck 10 Rush Sanji as well, which the Sanji would proc the Rush effect because that Ohm is at 6,000 power. So could be something to keep an eye on in the future. Until Whitebeard's looking at what they want to do. They've got 2 Radical Beams in hand as well. So some great defense whenever they need it, especially now that they're at 2 life, potentially 2 or less than 2 life after this turn. So starting off by swinging 8 at the Ohm, I believe that would be an 8 at 6. And the Enel player really thinking about whether or not they want to keep that and choosing to get rid of the Sanji, blocking that swing there, forcing them to either play down another rush character or swing with leader at the Ohm. And so looks like it's going to be a 7 swing at the Holly with the leader, and a blocker Marco comes down, passing the turn, picking up another card. It's a 1-drop Searcher Nami, the anniversary version of that card. And now at 8 Dawn, the Enel player draws for turn. Thinking about what he wants to do now. Got to keep the Ohm alive. Thinking about whether or not they want to swing at the Marcos. The Marcos are a little bit tricky because they can constantly be revived either by discarding an event or a Whitebeard, depending on which one it is. And so swinging the Ohm 6 first, looks like it was going to be at leader, could either block with the Marco or pitch the 1K Nami as they just did. So swinging 6 now, looks like it's going to be at that rested 5-drop Marco. And it looks like it's going to be blocked by the blocker Marco, but then discarding a Whitebeard Pirate, the 9-drop Newgate, to keep that Marco alive. And so now the Enel player playing the 7-drop Marco, thinking about where he wants to go, which character I would assume is more valuable to take out. Would you rather take out the blocker Marco, or would you rather take out the character Marco? Or, well, they're both characters, the 5-drop Marco. So looks like he's going for the 4-drop blocker Marco, and I think it's just going to be the same thing, just discarding another Newgate. So 2 Newgates in hand gone. So this is very interesting on the Newgate player's part, because the Newgate is so good at letting you sustain like your last life, but also boosting up your Newgate in power. So very curious to see where the Newgate player goes from here at all 10 Dawn now, or I'm sorry, 9 Dawn, I believe. Going to be interesting to see how they play out this 9 Dawn. Do you commit Dawn to the especially 5-drop Marco and the Newgate to try to take out some of those bodies? Do you try to swing at the rush Enel? How do you play this out is the real question. So we know they have that Luffy in hand. It looks like they have another 5-drop Marco, but they're going to play that Luffy right there. Resting 5 Dawn, still got 4 to go, and it's another 6K Bonnie that can match that Ohm. So only like 5 cards in hand, 5 or 6 cards in hand for Newgate, which feels kind of weird. I feel like they usually have more than that, but going to first potentially be swinging with the Marco and swinging 6 at 6 against that Ohm to start out. Could save a couple of the Dawn for Radical Beams because you know you are going to go down to 0 life after this. And it looks like the Capone Beijay, I think that is, 2K counter off of that. So very telling, not using a 1K counter and instead using a 2 for a like tied swing. And so Newgate is going to use the Luffy to attack the Ohm, and another 2K counter is going to come out of the hand. So now Newgate just thinking about swinging another 6. It is coming to a point though that either this Ohm gets KO'd on this swing through the Newgate, or it dies. So you definitely want to take it out, in my opinion. So going to be swinging 8 at the Ohm, taking it out and passing the turn, leaving 2 Dawn open for the Radical Beam so you don't lose, and picking up a 2K counter off the life on the Machina, which is really, really nice. So the Enel now kind of in an interesting position. Do you try to go for game here when they've got 2 Dawn open, right? Because there's no life left and there's only 1 blocker, especially if you have another rush Enel in hand. Could be an interesting idea. I don't think that it's worth it though. I think you try to go for these pesky poking character cards, the Luffy, the 5-drop Marco. You probably want to try to get rid of them on this turn. So going to first be swinging with the Rush Enel character. Going to be swinging, I believe it was at Luffy. I'm not 100% sure though, but either way, going to be pitching a 2K counter, whichever one it was. The character Enel though is now going to be swinging another 7, so could be another 2K worth of bodies to be able to eclipse over it, or using a radical beam. The radical beam though, you kind of want to save for some of the bigger swings, I feel like, because you can reach 9 with the radical beam instead of 7 with just 2 bodies. But pitching 2 bodies on kind of a small hand is a little tough, I feel like. So thinking about what he wants to do right now, and it looks like he's going to block and pitch another Newgate. So pitching 3 Edward Newgate 9-drops in this, opting not to play that card in this match. Very, very interesting, and going to be resting 8 for the Katakuri, going to be putting Luffy in life, and then passing off the turn. This is a very interesting strategy because the Luffy can't like come in, like the Newgate has no way to get that life back into the hand until after the turn. So it's basically going to be a dead card heading into the next turn for the Enel. So finding his 4th Newgate, that's another Newgate in his hand. Also just absolute heresy, playing 3 different types of Newgate arts. Big flex, but got another Newgate. Thinking about playing that down in hand, that would keep that Luffy in life. Wouldn't necessarily help your numbers in terms of amount of counter power in hand, but it would inherently give you basically an extra card for every swing that they do, because you would add 2,000 power to your leader, which would effectively make you an 8K. So it's almost like every swing that they have, you have basically an invisible 2K in your hand. So could be nice to do that, but then you don't really have a ton of Dawn to be able to get rid of the Enel and pressure the Enel a ton. So going to be playing that down, putting their Newgate leader to 8,000, and probably going to try here to swing at this Enel Rush character. You could get a life off of it. You could just chip away a lot of cards at their hand, and you have 1 more Dawn at your disposal for the Radical Beam. So going to first be swinging at the Enel character and thinking about what they got in hand right now. That Rush Luffy is going to stay in there, but this is one thing that could happen. Now the Newgate player is putting the Enel player in a position to where if they do swing at life and whatnot, the Newgate player could potentially manipulate the swings to take life when they want to get that Luffy in their hand going into their turn and swing with potentially 4 bodies on the field. So pitching a 2K on that 8K swing is going to save that Enel, and now moving into Enel's turn. There is 1 blocker on the field, and so we'll see exactly where he goes. The Newgate player really hasn't been swinging a ton at the life lately, so we'll see how this plays out. It feels like a pretty good match so far at this point, and the thing about this is you kind of need to commit some Dawn to be able to swing. Sure is out of the question, right, for swinging, and if you attach some of this Dawn to leader to match the swing and swing at the opposing Newgate leader, then you're not going to be able to put another boss monster character down. So opting to instead put a Katakuri down, boss monster, and utilizing most of their Dawn here. So they're only going to be swinging with the Enel Rush character and the other Katakuri that they had down on the field. So opting to put the blocker Marco in life, giving another life, choosing top or bottom. I think if you're the Enel player, I think you probably want to put it on top if I had to take a guess, but opting to put it on the bottom. So we'll see if the Newgate player really now takes a life at this point for the Rush Luffy, but the Enel player opting to pass, letting that Luffy stay in the life, and like I was mentioning, being essentially a dead card when it goes into the Enel's turn and the leader effect takes the life. The Newgate has no more like 9-drop Newgates left. They pitch 3 off the Marcos, maybe regretting that a little bit. So going to be taking life on every pass turn now at this point. So very, very interesting spot for RJ and the Edward Newgate. We'll see how this goes. They have an Izzo in hand. They have Izzo and Radbeam in there. So could search for something, like you could see like a Portugas the Ace in there to be able to rush, but I don't know how valuable that is at this point because, oh my goodness, and Enel hits him with the Thunderbolt. So potentially discarding an event card, but in my opinion, I don't think you discard Radbeam at this point. So going to be trashing that character, and 1 life left, but they can cycle life, remember. So unless you have a rush character, you're not going to be getting game probably this turn. So starting out swinging 7 at Enel and thinking about what they want to do, they're going to take that and then cycle their hand using the Keith effect, as our league likes to call it. And then going to have to trash a card from their hand. Thinking about what they want to trash on this. Probably going to be something that you know you're not going to use at all. Like, 200 million Voltamaru could be good if they have another Marco blocker on field, because that is a 4 cost. Going to be using Yamato. So I do think Yamato's not the worst one to get, and so going to be swinging that Newgate there and potentially countering out of it. It looks like they're going to take it, and it's going to be a Sanji blocker. So discarding a card from their hand to play that Sanji blocker down at this point, and a full board coming in for the Enel going into their next turn. This is going to be a tough one, trashing the Yamato, but going to be at 0 life, and it's going to be a Rush Luffy. Oh my goodness. Putting down that Rush Luffy, attaching Fordon, swinging 10 at the Enel, and I think this is either combo out of it, and it looks like they are with El Thor and Shirahoshi. Oh, did they scoop? Did they maybe just scoop? Did they not have enough in hand? The unblockable Luffy getting through at the last moment. My goodness, I think that was win, because the El Thor, what? The El Thor gives you +4, right? Because you're at 0 life, and then +1 with the Shirahoshi, so you can only match with 10. Excellent job by the Newgate. Super surprised, though, that they pitched so many Newgates so early and so fast, but it ended up working in their favor because of that Rush Luffy. Great job there in that one, and Newgate takes that win. If you see Enel at Nationals and you plan on playing Enel, make sure you know about that Newgate matchup, because just as we've seen since OP01, right, that Rush Luffy can be a little bit of a pain. So thank you so much for watching this one. Hopefully you enjoyed this next round. Let me tell you, we're going to have some Newgate action later as well. So make sure you're ready for that when it comes on the channel. Again, thank you to Darkside Games and these players for letting me record. And yeah, see you in the next one.